Hi everyone, it's Jericho, and this is the story about how I got outed once. So hopefully my phone stays up, or at least doesn't get too much of the AC because I don't want to have to redo this again. But this is a story I've been thinking about talking about for a really long time. And it happened, I want to say last summer, or the summer before last, I think, maybe even. What had happened was one of my cousins who lives in another state was getting married to her longtime girlfriend, and myself and two other cousins were going, and we were the only cousins going because nobody else could either afford to or didn't support their marriage. So like their own parents weren't, like, my cousin's parents weren't even going to be there because they didn't support it. So we really thought it would be a big thing to like fly out there and go and do it. So we fly out there, right? And then we get a message from one of the people who I came with has a sister, two sisters, and they decided they were just last minute gonna road trip it out there. And that was like mostly fine. We didn't really have room for them in the hotel. And the one, let's call her B, was kind of bitchy about it, even though she had been asked if she wanted to come and she said no, she couldn't, and then she decided last minute that she just needed to make this grand appearance. Whatever, it's fine. B's younger sister was also there. She is, as far as I know, she's out because she talks about it on like Facebook and stuff. She's like pan, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. And it was like a really big experience for her. Like, she was just like elated the whole time, fucking inspired, fucking just time of her life. And it was really great to see because she is like the youngest of us. She was still in high school at the time. And before the trip, I had been thinking it over for a really long time, and I wanted to come out about being asexual. I wanted to come out about having varying, like, I wasn't really gonna come out about my romantic attractions, but if it was like asked as a follow-up to the ace thing, I was gonna like be open to it. And I was gonna come out as trans that trip after the wedding. I was gonna wait till the wedding was over because I didn't want to like make it a thing where it's like, oh hey, it's your wedding, but look at me. But I really wanted to do that because everybody I was with, I had thought was gonna be very, very, inclusive and supportive. And I got a little worried when they said they were coming because B, whenever I was 14, I was already questioning my gender and sexuality, and I had told her and one of the other cousins that had came with me on the flight that I was bi-curious. And the cousin who came with me on the flight was like, oh, that's cool, that's normal, that's fine. And that was cool. But then B was like, I mean, that's okay, but I really don't want to hear about it because it makes me feel nauseous. So I never talked to her about it ever again. And we were pretty close for a few years after that, but she got increasingly, like, just mean to me, so I didn't really talk to her much. And then on the trip, everything was okay. We did a bunch of different stuff. The wedding was gorgeous and probably the best wedding I've ever been to. And then, I don't know if it was exactly the next day or the day after, we went to their house and we were all just chilling in their apartment. Well, not their apartment, their living room. I live in an apartment. They have a house. It was in their living room with their dogs, and everything was great, and we were all talking. And the youngest cousin that was with us had like different questions about like the acronym, different things like that, and they were answering questions about it. They're both in the medical field, so like certain questions were more related to that. And then she asked, does the Q stand for questioning or does it stand for queer? And her wife said it can mean both. And then B, who, as far as I know, she really had nothing to contribute to the conversation up to that point at all, and she's the type of person who really doesn't want to be around if she can't contribute, she pointed full arm at me and said, "She's queer." And pretty much all the adults' eyebrows raised a little. And I was just like, I mean, sorta, I guess. I don't know. I just kind of brushed it off. I felt really uncomfortable. I had never had a problem with the word queer before, but all of a sudden I did have a problem with it. I was being pointed at, I was being called out, I was being labeled something that I wasn't by somebody who really had no idea what they were talking about, and they were doing it because it seemed like they had nothing else to say. And it was very awful feeling to be outed. It made me feel sick. It made me never want to show my face again, really. And I haven't really talked to her since then. And eventually I did come out to the cousins that got married and one of the ones from the flight. I told them that, I don't know if you remember this happening, but it was a really big issue for me, and it's been a really big barrier in me actually coming out, because that was the same day that I was going to come out, and I wasn't going to come out as that. And they've been very understanding. I never came out about it and spoke out to the youngest cousin and the other one that was with me, because they are all three sisters, and I didn't want to start any inter-cousin drama with that or anything like that. I didn't want them to feel like I was judging them because of what she said, but it did really hurt me, and it was the first real big strain I felt when it came down to being my true self. And I should have seen it coming because of just other things, but when we were little and young, we got along so well that it was just hard to really come to the realization that she was just gonna be toxic for me, most likely. And so that was really crappy. But slowly, through talking about it with people who are supportive, I have felt a lot better. I have felt way better, actually. And now I feel like I can talk about it, but the basic thing is, when you start living your truth, a lot of road bumps will happen like that, because people just are gonna assume things, and you're gonna drop the toxic people, and you might not be ready to drop them, but I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of gotta be. You can't have that dead weight holding you back, and I think I'm honestly better for not knowing her anymore, really. I don't regret cutting her out at all. She never really gave anything to my life in the first place, so I guess that's just where I am with that. Yeah, it's been hard, but I have a support system, and they call me my chosen name now. They call me Jericho. I don't know, they don't just point at me and call me queer, so that's cool. Yeah, I guess that's the story.